Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. I have a completely different kind of episode for you guys tonight, trying something totally different, so bear with me as I try out a new format, and if you guys can think of any way to make this cooler, I'd love to do this in the future, so let me know in the comments. But what we are doing tonight is we are going to drink through the vertical of the core range of Ardbeg, and this isn't a blind tasting. This is me challenging what I gave these as ratings in the past. So let's go over real quick what's in the lineup here. So when I first had this one, I actually did it on a versus between the 10 and the Wee Beastie, and I picked the Wee Beastie over the 10, which kind of blows my mind a bit. And we'll see if that holds up tonight, but I'm very curious. This is Ardbeg 10, the one that started it all. Yeah, a very, very good whiskey. I've recommended this to a lot of people, especially ones that I want to get into peat. The 10, to me, is actually going to be a contender across the board here, even at the lower price. The Ano. Now this one was the only one that when I reviewed it, I didn't really give it a great review. I kind of said try it, but for me, it was a big misunderstanding, I think, because I thought it would be more like the 10. And it just wasn't, because it wasn't designed to be. Which, anything French oak touches, I usually really like, so I'm a little surprised about this one. I think this one's still probably going to fall short, but we'll see. This is the Ugadale, otherwise known as Oogie. No age statement, but they weren't necessarily trying to go for an age statement here. They were going for a flavor. And they have ex-bourbon barrels and ex-sherry butts to lend that flavor to this whiskey. Non-chill filtered as with all of these, so we'll see where this one lands too, but this one is one that I recommend quite a lot, unless I'm recommending the Corey Vrecken, which was released in 2008. I love the fact that it's just named after that giant whirlpool in between Scotland and some of the islands. And just really, really cool story behind this, and one that I've just loved for a very long time. So we'll see. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to taste all of these, and I'm going to kind of do them really quick. I don't want to make you guys sit through too much of this. I'm not even necessarily going to give too much in the way of notes, but what I want to do is almost live stream like in a shorter format, where I kind of rank them against each other, and ultimately we come up with what I like the most. So let's go ahead and get into that. Cheers. It's a heck of a way to wake your mouth up. But what I do like about this one, and I think is unique among all of these, is although smoke is obviously prevalent in all of these, this is the only one that truly tastes like mesquite wood or like a barbecue. And I think that is such a great flavor to incorporate into your whiskey. It really just shows that just char. And I think it's such a deep flavor for a 5-year-old. On to the 10. Nice, more crisp, awesome nose here. It's definitely a lot lighter than, say, the 5 or even the rest of these that are more sherry influenced. This nose on this is where I think it stands out. It deceives you, because then when you're going to taste it, it doesn't taste quite like the nose. It smells citrusy, tastes like smoke. Although, this one still, I think where this one's strengths really lie are as a good intro to peat. Because this has just the right amount of smoke and flavor without being such a huge punch to the mouth. The nose, again, is a bit deceiving, but that's not terrible. I don't really dock it too much on that. If you were going to have somebody try this for the first time, though, that would be something to let them know. Say, the nose isn't quite what the taste is like, but try it anyway. All right, let's move on to the Ano. So with the Ano, we're finally moving into something with a little bit more influence from the casks, and there it's not an age statement anymore. So these are going to be all about the flavor, which is also what I'm going to judge it on, not necessarily, is this worth 5 years or 10 years? This is this good? Because that's what they were trying to do. So on the nose here is a little bit, I am shocked to learn that this has PX in it. I just don't see it, but knowing that it has French oak as part of the influence is starting to make a little bit more sense. I think I might have just not understood that very well when I did my very first video, the influence that French oak could have, which is funny because actually looking back at some of my early videos, I did a lot of French oak, but cheers. This one still doesn't do it for me, and I still to this day get comments on that video of people that are just like, you didn't like the Ano? Really? I love it. You know, this one just doesn't do it for me, and I'm not sure why. I feel like it's competing with itself on the flavors, and then you just get kind of this sharp, almost unpleasant flavor that doesn't highlight the smoke, and it doesn't highlight the sherry. It's more just like a stinging smoke. And I mean, you guys know me, I'll drink high proof. It's not the ABV, it's the flavor. All right, anyway, let's move on to the Ugadale, one of my favorites. Oh man, I could smell this one all day. It smells so good. Just cherry and raisins and fruit and wine and it smells like sherry, and sherry is a fantastic thing to mix with whiskey. So cheers. All right, so with sherry, sometimes you get very fruity in the flavor, and sometimes you get more kind of like raisiny, pruny, things like that. And I call them dark fruits, right? That's more what this is. For me, it's more of a raisin flavor. And it's unexpected when you smell the whiskey. Again, this is another that it doesn't really hit the expectations, but it is definitely getting better. And the higher ABV, I will say it's not as well masked as I would have expected or maybe even remembered. And I don't recall that being the case, but I also don't know that I would have remembered. I would almost consider that a detractor here. I do like high ABV, but I don't love when it's the main thing that you're tasting. And on here, I'm tasting ABV, and then you get past it, and then you get the raisins, and you get some of those other darker fruit notes. But some of the other flavors I'm getting here are kind of like a black cherry. So again, sticking with fruits. And that's mostly it. There's almost a hint of butterscotch, which might be from that ex-bourbon barrel, but even that is very mild. And now onto the Corey Vrecken, which I'm just eager to get into. The smell here always reminds me of seaweed at night on the shore. Almost like it's low tide, but not like the gross fish, dead fish smell. It's more like there's just a ton of seaweed on the shore, and that's what you're smelling. It's briny, it's vegetal in a way. It is smoky for sure. Maybe there's a fog rolling in or something. It's a fun flavor to smell. This one lets you know what you're about to drink. So cheers. So where I love this one is how much salt there is on it. This tastes, I compared it, I believe the very first time I reviewed this, I think I compared it to pouring water onto a log that had been in a fire and then breathing in, salt water specifically, and then breathing that in. I don't necessarily agree with that anymore, because I feel like that actually is more along the lines of the barbecue from the Wee Beastie here. This one's not a charcoal, it's a nice clean smoke. It's almost like tobacco smoke. But like from a pipe or a cigar. Let's go cigar. But also with a ton of brine. And that is kind of the main thing that you're tasting here, is just that briny, salty yum. Loving it. It's just good. All right, so now that I've gone through this the first time, I think it's prudent to eliminate one. Now, I've tasted all of these. I'm sure it's going to be obvious it's going to be the no, but let me justify that a little bit. So this one is right in the middle, and to be better or higher priced than the Wee Beastie and the Ardbeg, it should taste better. And in my opinion, it still just does not. So I'm going to eliminate the no. And that one is off the table. So now we have the Wee Beastie, the 10, the Ugadale, and the Corey Vrecken. Let's see which one is going to win this time. So I'm going to start off with the 10 at least. So this was the first one released. So let's go ahead and give it another taste. Now I am drinking water in between all these takes. It's just not worth watching, right? So cheers. Okay, now that is a flavor that holds up. You know, I'm 5 sips in at this point. Let's call it like a solid 1 drink of whiskey. This holds up. It tastes exactly as it did when I first had it, and it still tastes like just pleasant. It's still fresh. Some of the citrus, like it's very much a lemon citrus, but not like what you'd get in, say, like a Speyside where you're like, wow, that's lemony. This is more lemon as if you were to clean your house and you're like, it smells fresh and clean in here like lemons. It's more like that, which is so funny to think of, like heavily peated and like, oh, lemons, why not? But as far as the taste goes, this is still super good. What you're getting here is starting to border a little bit more on salt. I'm picking it up a little bit more here. Some of the campfire notes are coming out. I'm starting to see how this is more related to the Wee Beastie than I would have thought. But speaking of which, I'm going to actually compare this over to the Corey Vrecken. Now the reason I picked the Corey Vrecken here is actually interesting, because my notes on both of these are similar historically, right? Like when I did the review, they were very similar in flavor profile, and that is pretty much saying lemon and smoke and like fresh and seaweed and brine. And so that makes me think that these are probably good to go up against each other. So let's try this one. And this is where the difference between, like where they're justifying the price point. The flavor on this one is much fuller. This one tastes as if you are trying a whiskey. This one tastes like you're drinking a whiskey, if that means anything to you guys. I'm not sure how better to express it. The viscosity, I mean, I guess technically the viscosity of the whiskey is thicker and thus carrying more flavors with it. So when you drink this, it fills your mouth and it's getting more surface area covered and you're tasting it more. This one kind of just goes down your throat. So let's move on to, we'll try, these are going to be totally not good to put up against each other, but I think I'm going to move to the Wee Beastie first and then no. I'm going to go to the Ugadale first because I think the Wee Beastie might overpower it. So we'll go with the Ugadale. So the sherry notes here, after a couple of drinks, they're not necessarily standing out more, but it is holding up what flavors it had. Every single one of these Ardbegs is just really good, except for the Eno, but they're just really good. I've been a huge proponent of Ardbeg for years, and I really think it's one of the best values that you could buy. I know they've done some weird stuff in the last few years. I've tried most of them. You haven't seen them on the channel because they're not always attainable in my area, but I've had fans who have sent me samples and stuff. I've done them on the Wheel of Doom. They've been tried, and the black was awesome. Obviously, Dark Cove is fantastic, but that's just like, you can't even find that. But a few other ones are worth your time, but like the what is it, the drum, Grooves was okay. Fermutation, I'm going to go off on a spiel here. So Fermutation was interesting in that it had just flavors that you don't normally taste, but I also think that that's just flavors that you're not supposed to taste, but I still appreciated trying it. I'm going to say this wrong, but I think it's Tre Bahan, the 19-year-old they put out every year. Those are typically very, very good. And then I had a really, really old one. I'll put the year down here after I look it up. I want to say it was like 27 years old. Just amazing. Like everything from Ardbeg at worst is pretty good. And at best is stellar, which is kind of fitting considering the whole space concept. Anyway, so let's... Ugadale is still a pretty good contender here, but the Wee Beastie, let's try this one out. Cheers. While I'm drinking, if you guys are enjoying this, first off, let me know in the comments what you'd like to see in a style of video like this, but also give it a thumbs up, and if you like this kind of a video, consider subscribing, or joining the Discord. It'd be fun to get some more people in there. There's hundreds and hundreds of people, but, you know, it's always good to get new blood. Okay, so, interesting thing. After a few drinks, the Wee Beastie's flavor, just the boom right at the beginning that I talked about, it's calming down a bit. And it's not because it's sitting out, it's because your palate's starting to get fried, which is okay. But when you're dealing with a heavily peated whiskey, one thing I expect it to do is hold up against palate fatigue. And that's something I'm judging here. So suddenly, the Wee Beastie is not as good of a contender as I thought it would be. It's still up there, and this is going to be hard elimination, so I gotta think about this for a sec. Alright, in what is probably going to be the hardest decision that I make tonight, I'm going to have to eliminate the Ardbeg 10. And that kind of hurts my soul a little bit, I'm not going to lie. But here's my reasoning. There is nothing that the Ardbeg 10 does that the Corey Vrecken doesn't do better or the same. And there's no flavor in the 10 that I either miss or don't get in the Corey Vrecken. So when it comes down to it, the Corey Vrecken, I think, is just a superior beverage. So that's fine. But the fact that the 5 is still here, like, what? What? But just shows, don't judge a book by its cover or whiskey by its age statement. I don't think that's catching on. All right, let's go ahead and go to this next round. Now, I think I'm going to start with the Ugadale because I took a little bit of a break there and I have a little bit less of a palate fatigue. If the Ugadale is going to pull anything out, this is going to be the round it's going to do it in. So, give me a sec. The smell is just so good. I want to just live in you. It's really starting to creep in the very bit of sherry influence, which is weird, right? It wasn't very clear at the beginning, but it's getting more clear the more I drink, which is a weird one. I don't know how you test for that, but either way, the Ugadale is really starting to appeal to me the more I have. Let's go ahead and jump into the Wee Beastie. Okay, so this is gonna hurt. The Wee Beast, oh, actually, I take that back. The finish came on strong. The Wee Beastie, what I was going to say is that it was starting to lose some of its luster and some of its flavor, and it was not carrying that through. But the finish is so long. It still tastes like barbecue. This is very much going to come down to an opinion. These are three vastly different whiskeys. Barbecue smoke, subtle sherry influence, likely probably going to get eliminated. And then like kind of in my mind, one of the best examples of what Ardbeg can do for their core range. So let's even just do that. I have to eliminate the Uigeadail, even though I will say, and you guys can see this on the channel, I very much prefer sherried whiskeys. They are kind of my wheelhouse, if you want to say, or just something I gravitate towards. And so to eliminate the Uigeadail hurts a lot. But when it comes to holding up the flavor, I just don't think it does. There are a bunch of other sherried whiskeys that I like more, although I can't think of any that are peated. So it's a little hard to compare. If you guys know a really good sherried whiskey that's peated, let me know. I'd probably love to try it. So we're in the final round here. We have the Wee Beastie versus the Corey Vrecken. These are so vastly different. This is almost like a weird combination, but who cares, right? That's where we are. So when you consider the Wee Beastie, this one, what it's really brought to the table is this long-lasting flavor. And as long as it continues to do that, it is doing really, really well. So let's go ahead and give that a shot. And it is. And here's where that matters. If you decide that you want to try some Wee Beastie at the end of the night, I always tell people, if we go out to a bar and we're drinking whiskeys, we always finish the night on peat. But if you drink like a Laphroaig 10, you're going to get a lot of flavor for sure. Even if you are hammered, you're going to taste the Laphroaig 10. However, not only is this cheaper than Laphroaig 10, it has a longer and stronger flavor, in my opinion, than Laphroaig 10. So that could be a cool way to finish your night. Corey Vrecken, let's go ahead and give this a shot. Oh man, it's just so good. It is everything that I want out of Ardbeg. And even if I'm taking into account that obviously these are both Ardbeg, like what I want out of Ardbeg is not what Ardbeg's putting out. It's what... This tastes like smoke and salt, and it has full body, and it's multifaceted, and it's named after a cool whirlpool. I don't know, like, what else am I gonna say? The Wee Beastie here is a fantastic flavor. It is 100% worth your money. Buy this. But also buy this. And when I pick one, I have to pick the Corey Vrecken. And it has nothing to do with money, it has nothing to do with preference. What it has to do with is drinkability. This is still slightly a gimmick. This is just an absolutely delicious example of what you can do with peat if you balance it properly. It's not just smoke. It is lemons. Lemons and smoke. Those don't go together, right? So anyway, we're picking Corey Vrecken. It is fantastic. It's amazing. Buy them both. Tonight's greatest upset, though, really, is the Uigeadail. I was very surprised that that ended up getting out before the Wee Beastie. But the sherry influence on that, I would love to see a Ardbeg where they really concentrate on the sherry flavor and put that out and make it just awesome. I would buy that in a second, even if it's like stupid expensive, which most of their special releases are. But thank you guys for joining me here tonight. I want you to help me out, though. I need two things from you, if you don't mind, if you're cool. Number one, this is a brand new format, so I'd love to hear what you guys think. It's kind of a little live streamy format, but it's also going to be cut down, so it should be a little shorter. Let me know what you think of this format, what I could do better, what I did well, what you liked, what you didn't like. I promise I will take all criticisms very well. Also, I have a couple of single barrels. You can find them at whiskeydickpicks.com, because it's the best name ever. And go check those out. There's one from Barrel Spirits and one from an Australian distillery called Starward. But Starward is awesome. The barrel one is awesome. Just go read up on them on the website. So tonight, thank you guys for joining me here. And I'm going to go drink the rest of this, so I'd rather do that not on camera. All right, good night, and have a great rest of your night. Cheers.